right, good morning, and as people are getting seated, I would like to welcome you to the 2019 CSLA Annual Conference. Yes, thank you. And I want to share that for the first time ever, we are recording this session and it is actually being live streamed. And the theme for our conference is dreams. And so I feel that dreams shows what the library does and how we support all of our educators in all content areas, and the place designed to focus and support students' dreams and what they are interested in. We're that one true place on campus where that can happen. I would like to give a big shout out to the members of United Teachers Los Angeles. Throughout their successful strike, they maintained a unified message that clearly articulated the importance of school libraries. This is a huge success for the students of Los Angeles Unified and serves as an inspiration for teachers groups across the nation. The challenge now is to support Los Angeles Unified in filling these positions and to convince the districts to maintain our paraprofessional library staff we know are so necessary in creating the optimal library program and the team. Thank you. So congratulations to Los Angeles. And there are flyers here about how you can, they're looking to fill positions, and so there will be information about that. And Kathleen will talk about that at the membership meeting. And I believe I'm a slide behind. There we go. The conference committee has been hard at work curating a wide variety of professional growth opportunities from which you can choose. They include concurrent sessions that are being offered by our partner organizations, from our administrative leadership day to our keynote speaker, in November, to the Saturday night CURM dinner featuring Sarah Pennypacker, and concluding with author-illustrator Eugene Yelchin. This is indeed a weekend that dreams are made of. There are many people to thank who have brought this conference together. And as I recognize you, please stand and remain standing. And I would like to please ask the members of the conference committee to stand, and that includes CSLA's paid staff, our conference coordinator, our exhibits coordinator, and our administrative assistant. Stand and be recognized, and please remain standing. So, thank you for this conference. Now, may I have the presenters stand and be recognized? So for anyone who's presenting a workshop or, sorry, thank you for coming and presenting. You're much appreciated. Now, may I please have everyone stay standing. Now, may I please have everyone who is, or will be doing something for this conference stand and be recognized. If you are a facilitator, worked registration, putting decorations on tables, if you are shepherding my mom, and my mom needs to stand and be recognized. And I just want to give a shout out to my mom. She did conference with my dad all the time, and I'm so happy that she's here with me today, so thank you. Now, please stay standing. These people who are standing, look at the people near you. They can help you become more involved. We are a volunteer organization and we need you for next year's conference and to serve on committees. We will help you get started volunteering at your comfort level. And so it can be facilitating, which is important, but please become involved. We need you. And thank you. You may be seated. Thank you so much. All right. I was negligent and I missed the first time meeting, and I apologize for that. And so if you are a first time attendee here at a conference, please stand and be recognized. Oh, excellent. Thank you and welcome. We are so excited to have you here. Thank you. And now, I would like to recognize another team of volunteers who work on your behalf year-round. And I would like to ask them to stand and remain standing. Our CSLA State Board members for the past year and the coming year, please stand. Thank you, and remain standing. Our Northern Region members for the past year and the coming year, please stand. And our Southern Region members for the past year and the coming year, please stand. All right, and remain standing. Every person now standing is available to talk to you and to listen to your ideas and to help move your concerns for our profession and our organization forward. Seek them out so you can truly best represent, so we can truly best represent you, our students, and our California school libraries. Thank you, and you now may be seated. Thank you so much. And now, I would like to ask all past CSLA presidents to stand and be recognized. So please help me in recognizing these outstanding group of CSLA leaders, and thank you so much. And I'm looking forward to being in that rank next year. So thank you, and you may be seated. Overly happy, yes. All right, I would now like to thank our sustaining members. So if our sustaining members are in the room, please stand and wave. So I would like to thank Abdo Publishing, Britannica Digital Learning, Follett School Solutions, Fresno Pacific University, Gale Ascengage Company, Junior Library Guild, Mackin, Mrs. Nelson's, and Permabound. Thank you so much. We value your support, and thank you for being sustaining members. Thank you. And now I would like to thank sponsors. They've sponsored, some have sponsored the conference, scholarships, and awards. I would like to, if you're here, please stand and wave. Follett, Permabound, CTA, Gale, Junior Library Guild, Scholastic Book Fair, DIMCO, and Mackin. Thank you so much for sponsoring. And now, I would like to welcome our conference partners and our honored guest. Please stand and be recognized. The California Library Association. Thank you. The California Mathematics Council, Kathleen Latimer. The California Science Teachers Association, Lori Walsh. Q, Kate Tolnay. And I don't know if Greg Lucas is in the building, but if he's here, welcome. And also Delane Easton, and she will be speaking shortly. And now, it is my distinct honor to introduce Delane Easton. Delane was the first, and so far, only woman to serve as a California State Superintendent of Public Instruction, as well as candidate for governor. She has been a strong supporter of public education throughout her career, and her commitment to education forced other gubernatorial candidates to adopt more educator-friendly positions, making education an important campaign issue. And she is serving on Gavin Newsom's transition committee and helping him remember that education is important. In CSLA, we know and love Delane as a champion of school libraries and students having access to current materials and technology. When Delane was State Superintendent of Public Instruction, she was instrumental in securing dedicated library funds. So for some of us who've been in this career for a number of years, we had that benefit of having dedicated funding to update our collections, and that is thanks to Delane. And thank you so much for that. So legend has it that she was inspired to do so while seeing the book, Someday Man Will Walk on the Moon, during a school library visit. And I believe this visit was in the 90s. 80s, okay? Still, we were 20 years well past walking on the moon. So Delane was instrumental in our administrative leadership yesterday. She will be also speaking at our legislative meeting tomorrow. And welcome, Delane.
Well, good morning. It's great to be here with all of you, and I really do thank you for the opportunity to be here to give you a shout out. You see, I was a lucky kid. I was born in California, San Diego, California. My dad always said that the hospital I was born in wasn't named till my birth, and the doctor took one look at me and said, "Mercy." So, but in my life, my parents were blue-collar people, but they believed in education. And when my dad got out of the Navy after 22 years, they could have bought a bigger house for less money, but they bought the littler house that cost more because it had better schools. So I left a school in San Francisco, San Miguel, a public school, where I was one of 44 children in the second grade, and I don't remember a librarian or a library. And I moved to San Carlos, where I was the 20th kid in Mrs. McClaws's class, and there was a librarian there named Miss Firth. Miss Firth was instrumental in my getting a wonderful life, because at one point she took me aside and she said, "Honey, you like to read, don't you? Could I recommend a few books for you?" And I said, "Yes." And so she had me read every single biography of a woman in the Britton Acres Library. And I thank you all for being teacher librarians. I believe you have one of the most important jobs in America. And the fact is that we're living in an interesting time, and I want to give a shout out to Renee. I'm so proud of her and the work she's doing and in the Department of Education, and yeah, really. I want to give Glenn a shout out. He's just been a wonderful, inspiring, warrior for children. And I also, though, want to say to each and every one of you, we are living at a very interesting time. Dream was up here. I closed the thing so I could see my notes, but Dream. Remember California Dreamin'? That's who we used to be. We were dreamers. You know, when I left to go to UC Davis in 1965, the University of California cost $82.50 a semester. The CSU was $42 a semester. My best friend went to San Jose State, and community colleges were absolutely free. K-12 was 5th of the 50 states in per pupil spending. 5th, tied with New York. And this morning, New York spends more than twice as much as California is spending per child. It's absolutely outrageous that we are not doing more. And so I ran for governor, yes, but I didn't actually think I could win. I'd been off the political stage for a long time. But I was just disheartened because nobody was talking about education. And finally, we now have a commitment from the governor on universal preschool, and we're moving to full-day mandatory kindergarten, and we're increasing the investment in K-12 education. But we all have to make sure there's a real effort made to work on the dreams. We've got to do the design. We've got to do all of the wonderful acronyms that are there, because you save this kid with science and that one with math. You save that one with computer-assisted design, and this one over here you save with a caring librarian. Everybody here needs to know that. So when we dream and we engineer and we do science and we celebrate math and we do the work of the arts, and yes, the arts are important. When I was superintendent of public instruction, we worked hard to get standards in English and math. That was all some of the state board wanted, just those two subjects. We worked hard then to get science and history. But then I convened an arts task force. And you know, it was the biggest task force I ever had. I had all these people calling, "I have to be on that task force." And then, you know where they were from? Yes, they were librarians, and yes, they were technologists, but they were also Silicon Valley and Hollywood, because over 25% of the jobs in the new economy are arts-based. So we got to make sure there's technology in every single school in California, and that means we have to fight to put broadband in rural California and make sure every kid has access to the technology that you can present to them. And so, yeah, I like to talk about safe and secure facilities, but I also want to talk about emotionally and socially supportive environments. I want to talk about having a variety of wonderful options for different kids, because you just never know what's going to resonate with what kid. I've been to the career and technical education schools that are good ones in California. I met a young man who was going to drop out of high school. He didn't know I was in high school. And thank God he had a good counselor who got him, please take a chance. Got him into an automotive repair class. And the principal said to me, "Are you going to finish high school now?" And he says, "Oh yeah, I'm going to finish high school. I'm going to graduate in June. And I've already got a job. I'm working part-time now at an auto repair shop." Then I met a wonderful young woman. She was going to drop out of high school because her parents were both drinkers and her house was chaotic, and she didn't really believe that she had much of a future there. So she was just going to drop out, get her GED. She already had a little job at an architectural firm. She was going to work part-time till she dropped out, and then she was going to work full-time. And her counselor convinced her to go take a computer-assisted design class. When I met her, she was just in love with what she was doing. And I said to her, you know, are you going to graduate? And she said, "Oh yes, I'm going to graduate." And the principal said, "And tell Miss Easton, are you going to go work full-time for the architectural firm?" She said, "Well, I am this summer." "And what are you going to do in the fall?" "I'm going to Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. I'm going to be an architect." The fact is that you are about helping our kids to dream and do. And that's what we have to be about. We have to help these kids to see what glorious opportunities there are and what great work there is to be done. It is true that when I got first elected to the assembly, a report came out, and it was about California having the worst library collection in the entire nation. We had the oldest books and the fewest number of titles, the worst periodicals collection, and the worst reference libraries. So I carried a bill to give the school libraries categorical funds to improve the purchase of reading materials. George Majan wrote the nicest veto I ever got. He said, "The author has a noble purpose, but she has to identify a revenue stream." So there was zero taxation on chewing tobacco, pipe tobacco, snuff, and cigars. So I was going to tax those products. But you know, the tobacco industry was so powerful. 4 of the members of the Rev and Tax Committee came in smoking. 2 were smoking cigars. They might as well have been wearing T-shirts that said, "I'm for the tobacco industry." And so you have to understand that the tobacco taxes that have been increased in the state have mostly been done by initiatives from people like the people in this room. But it's time that we begin a process of getting a lot more resources back in the schools of this state. It is time to change Prop 13 for the locals to get more revenues. And I will say that to all of you, we have this opportunity to support our children. You know, in California, we are the 5th largest economy in the world. Did you know we passed Great Britain? And yet we have the 41st in per pupil spending. It may go up some. Gavin does have a pretty good budget. Full day kindergarten, some preschool. But still, we got to get back in the top 10 of the 50 states in per pupil spending. We have the highest number and percentage of poor children and the highest number and percentage of English learners. And we're the 5th largest economy. We need to be in the top 5 as far as I'm concerned when it comes to per pupil spending. Every school not only needs a full library and wonderful technology, every school needs a teacher librarian or 2, because some of our schools are pretty darn big. So it's my hope that I'll get to come back and see you all when we have to meet in a football stadium, because we've got so many teacher librarians doing the important work that you're doing. I will just say that, you know, there's some wonderful, sexy things people like to talk about. But the single most important thing that the government of the state of California does is to educate its children. It actually says that in the state constitution. Go look up Article 16, Section 8. It says, "From all revenues there shall first be set aside the monies for the education of children through institutions of higher education." They take an oath to uphold and defend that. And we need to hold elected officials' feet to the fire. The children need to be put first again in the state of California, because a bunch of people coming out of a depression and a war figured out how to do it. When Viktor Frankl survived the Holocaust, he wrote a book called Man's Search for Meaning. He says in that book, "He who has a why to live can bear with almost any how." I came this morning to thank you for helping our kids to find out how, to find out the wonders of this world, whether their passions are engineering or science, whether it's math or art, whatever it is, you are helping these kids like Miss Firth helped me. So I'm here to thank you on her behalf. I never got to thank her. And I will say, the other thing is that it is going to be hard work here. We've all got to put our shoulders to the wheel. Don't lose faith. We can change this. But it's people like the people in this room who are so respected who need to do that. I'm reminded that when Kennedy said we need to go to the moon by the end of the decade, people said, Mr. President, that's too ambitious a schedule. Mr. President, that's too expensive. Mr. President, that's too hard. And I say to all of you, what Kennedy said, we go to the moon not because it is easy, but because it is hard. I know it will be hard to convince legislators to do what they need to do in order for us to get back on track. But my suggestion to you, and I'll say this tomorrow, but you know, when you think about legislators, you should invite them to your school. You should invite them to this. Remember, they're in session from January to September. So you can either invite them end of September, October, November, December, or you can invite them on a Friday because they're in Sacramento Monday through Thursday. But bring them and show them what you're doing and have them meet your kids and look them in the eye and have them begin to dream again about the kind of state we can and should be, because as California goes, so goes the nation. Ladies and gentlemen, there's a phrase, so weep my friends, be blithe, be gay. So sing my friends, be blithe, be gay, or weep my friends with sorrow. What California is today, the rest will be tomorrow. Let's be the state with the highest proportion of teacher librarians of any state in the union within the next decade. My hat's off to all of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Delane. Thank you. All right. And now I'm going to invite Tim Baird, Superintendent of Encinitas Unified School District, to the stage. And I want to share that he is a huge supporter of students pursuing their personal interests. It was while co-presenting with Tim and Glenn, and actually it was me sitting and listening and letting the two of them go, that I got the inspiration for the Dreams Conference and this theme. And so thank you for that. So Tim is going to be sharing with us the important part of, Tim was an important part of our leadership day yesterday. And he will be sharing his vision of dreams and introducing Alan November to the stage. And Alan's talk will be on dreams, libraries, learning of a lifetime. So thank you, Tim.
Thank you for that nice introduction. I have been told to keep this short so that we can get more of Al in November. So ladies and gentlemen, Al. No, I'm kidding, Al. Sit down. Our journey with Dreams started about 4 or 5 years ago. We were working on deep, meaningful, passion-driven learning with our students, and we realized that we were not reaching all of them. Glenn Warren talks about making this connection through love. If that is true, we were looking for love in all the wrong places. If I could torture this metaphor further, we were in 2 failing relationships. We were failing our relationship with design, and we were failing in our relationship with research. And it's something that I think a lot of us are struggling with. Design was relatively new, kind of sexy. There was a lot of interesting things going on. There was a lot of adventure. Didn't know where it was leading, but we weren't asking a lot of questions. We weren't making meaningful connections, and ultimately nothing important was being done or created. Our relationship with research was a different problem. We took research for granted. It happened in a lab. It happened on a report. We didn't really understand research either. Then kind of the epiphany happened. Our epiphany was that it wasn't design or research, it was design and research. Together, there was a synergy that really brought out the best of both of them. From that, we realized that design needed the foundational supports of strong research to really be built on something that could make a difference. Research needed the promise of design to take that research and do something meaningful. That brought together our framework of dreams: design, research, engineering, art, math, and science. It's not just an acronym, it's kind of a way of life for us. When you start thinking about how design and research work together and what they can do together and how they bring out the best in both of those process skills, it's pretty amazing. Since then, we've been doing our own research and design. That has led us to Alan November. Now, I've known Alan for a long time. I've seen him speak numerous times. Alan sometimes gets mislabeled as a technology guy. I don't think he's a technology guy. I think he's a learning guy. And there's a difference there, because Alan is about how do we bring out the best in our students? How do we give them the tools to do this kind of work? And as I was working with Glenn on this, it's like, we got to get Alan out to talk to our teachers. We got to get him out to talk to our management team. We've got to start looking at how information literacy drives our world, drives our thinking, drives our learning. So Alan has been out to our district 2-3 times, I think, in recent years to meet with our team. Most of our team have seen Alan. We've read his 3 books. We've read his dozens of articles. He puts on an amazing conference every summer back in Boston. He's the leading voice, I think, in terms of information literacy, and he's been doing this for a long time. I think he's been doing it for as long as we've been calling it information literacy. So I'm going to bring him up here. We brought him back, by the way, to talk to our teachers last year. We'll probably bring him out again next year or the year after, because every time I listen to Alan, I learn something new. Ladies and gentlemen, our speaker, Alan November.
This is the second day I've been inspired. You have an amazing energy. It's an incredible honor to be in front of you. I have to tell you, there are 2 people in my life who scared me the most. It's English teachers and librarians. I'm just going to tell you that up front. I still owe money. I owe money. I have nightmares that my high school librarian is going to chase me down. So while I'm figuring out how to play with the technology here, I want to comment on what Delane said about inviting your legislators. For about 10 years, I was responsible for designing an annual conference for the Council of Great Lakes Governors. And if you know your geography, those are 8 states that touch a Great Lake. And every year, I had to work with 8 governors, the majority of whom became Republican over that time, trying to figure out how to get more resources for public education. That was my job. And it was a difficult job. But we hit upon this incredibly successful plan, raised tens of millions of dollars. I'm going to tell you about it. It has to do with what Delane said. Do you teach state government in 4th grade? Is that where? California? That's what I recall. 4th grade. All right. So this is what we did. We got in contact with every 4th grade teacher, which you could do, and we asked every 4th grade teacher to then get in touch with their staff members of their state legislatures who are available. And they were to ask their staff members, what bills are your state legislators working on during session? Then the kids would take one of those bills, the teacher would assign a bill to their 4th grade, and they would research the bill and put together a research report that was sent to every state legislator. One day, a fierce opponent of public education in the legislature gets this report And it's on a bill he's supporting. It's about selling cigarettes. Kids did an amazing job. Researched other states, the industry, all kinds of repercussions. It was this amazingly well thought out and well written, well documented, well referenced report. And this guy doesn't believe the fourth grade kids did it. He calls the school, calls the teacher, and he says, "Who really did it?" And she was insulted. The kids signed it like the Declaration of Independence. All their names were on there. And she said, "My kids, they really did it." And he said, "It's not possible. This is a better written and more useful report than what the research department sent me. It couldn't be fourth graders. They couldn't do that kind of research. It's not possible." But they did, and you know they did. You know that we have underestimated lots of kids doing real work. Well, I'm just going to tell you, at the time, Tommy Thompson was governor of Wisconsin, and he went to the library of that elementary school to sign the bill that state legislator who was opposed to public education said, "How much do they need?" So I know this is probably not normal, that you would engage fourth graders in doing real work to understand how state government works. But I would urge you to consider that. I urge you, of course, to invite legislators to your school. You absolutely want to do what Delane said, absolutely. But in case they don't come, ship them a research report. Just in case they don't come. All right. Any questions? Good. Get that organized next week. No, seriously, this organization could pull that off. You could pull this off. You could organize a statewide contest of fourth graders writing research reports on a bill moving through the legislature. You could do that. All right, I'm getting there. How am I doing? Am I close? Oh, that was a good trip. Okay, hang on, I gotta set something else up, like mirroring or something technical. Wait just a sec. Well, I go to displays, and you don't see what I see, do you? Arrangement, mirror, no, not yet. We're getting there. One more little step, and my awkwardness should end. Watch a nerd fall apart. Okay. That's not it. I want to show you something else. I'm renovating a house. Tim knows this. I'm renovating a house. I want to show you what's on my shopping list. There we go. Okay. These are two appliances. I just ordered the one on the right. The one on the left doesn't work in this country. You see, it's in Japanese. It's in Japanese. And by the way, those three buttons, those three buttons will do amazing things to your body every time you go. Every time. So I want to talk about those buttons because that's probably what you're going to remember most about my talk is those three buttons. So this is about weird ideas. Now, eventually, I'm going to link this to libraries, so get ready. There is a linkage coming, even though it may not be obvious to you, how a toilet and a refrigerator connect to libraries. But hang on, right? Hang on to that part. This part is actually a little bit more fascinating. There's an LCD, it has all kinds of numbers in there, and charts, and graphs. And how many of you have used this toilet? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so it's real, right? Rest of you saw the hands go up? It's real. All right. But not in this country. Not yet. So here's the deal. This kind of gets serious. I'll tell you the fun part first. I presented in Tokyo, and I was there for a week. So we had the schedule at night that kept taking me out. And one night, I just said, "Can I go shopping? I want to go shopping." And they have this whole electronics section downtown Tokyo. So I went to a store, Smart House store, where they sell these things. And it was all set up. Plumbing worked. So I went in, they sent me in, they said, you want to experience the full effect of this? Don't stand up, sit down. Now, I did not need to sit down, but I did. And a friend of mine, another American presenter, good friend of mine, came with me, and he has a sense of humor of a 12-year-old. So without telling me, they gave my friend the remote control that controls the toilet. But I did not know it had a remote. Lesson number 1, do not lose the remote. Make sure you control the remote. Very, very important, because if you don't know it's coming, you go in, you sit down, your friend turns on the toilet. And when he did that, on this screen, a sea lion popped up. And the sea lion animated, there's a lot of animation in Japan. An animated sea lion pops up and starts juggling beach balls. And I'm sitting there trying to figure out, what's the beach balls? What is that? Beach balls? 1, 2, 3, 4 beach balls. Little flipper going round and round. And it turns out number of beach balls is the intensity of the spritz and the dry that you don't know is coming. You have no idea what the relationship is between beach balls and these things. Well, it turns out that 4 beach balls is the maximum. Nobody needs, that's rough. Nobody needs 4 beach balls. Nobody needs 4. 2. 2 is all you need. 2. 2 is soothing. 4, you will fly off a toilet faster than you ever dreamed possible. That's what 4 beach balls does to you. Okay, now, the important part of this, are you still with? We're getting to the library stuff in a moment. So, oh, I know. You could know if they checked out books. Zap! Anyway. Oh, my. So you probably already figured this out, that there's a computer chip in the bowl of the toilet, and it's connected to the internet, and the refrigerator is connected to the internet, and as you go in your own home, it does a complete wellness check. And then it sends that data to your refrigerator. And it sends it to your phone, your app, your watch, your iPad, whatever other device you want, sends the data, builds charts over time, things like blood sugar, diabetes. It's kind of important. Save your life. It could save your life. It's kind of quite powerful and quite serious when you get down to why these things are sold and why they're not sold here. It's really fascinating. It has to do with information. The technology is kind of fun, but the really good reason to buy that is to save your life. And in order to save your life, you might not want to wait a year to go to a doctor, because once you get diabetes, you're probably not going back. Certain illnesses, once the switch is thrown, it's thrown. So it's best to have preventative medicine. And a lot of that is coming. And the fascinating thing about this refrigerator, Samsung makes this, Toto makes that. I just bought it from my house. It had never been purchased by the place I went to. They had to look it up. And I said, that's the one I want. And so the refrigerator, both devices recognize who you are. The refrigerator recognizes who you are. The door has a thumbprint thing, so it knows who you are. The toilet has a different recognition system. The refrigerator also talks to you. It's like Siri built in. Do you know Alexa? Going to be everywhere. Alexa's going to be everywhere. And so the refrigerator, you open the door, and it says, in my case, it says, good morning, Alan. May we suggest more fiber today? And it knows I need fiber because the toilet told it I need fiber. I don't even know I need fiber. These things know more about my body than I do. Pretty scary, huh? That's pretty scary. Are there any questions so far? Because I'm about to make a leap to libraries. Are you ready? I'm still figuring it out. But I do want to mention a couple of things. This is now where I'm trying to get serious. Hard to get that smirk off my face. Guess which group in Japan, well-educated, resisted the toilet? Doctors, doctors, doctors. And I am fascinated by the social, emotional side of innovation. Innovation usually brings resistance by somebody in the organization. Surprisingly, sometimes it's kids, which I'll talk about in my next 2 workshops. But what I've learned is the most, in my opinion, this is my opinion, the most resistance happens when people lose a sense of control. They're not resistant about learning technology per se, but you really want to see resistance? Go talk to doctors in Japan who control medical lab content and interpreted it for patients who completely lose control over that information. They no longer own it, they don't control it. Other things are happening that they never did with it, like the refrigerator. That is a serious loss of what you do for a living. Because all of a sudden, there's a technology that shifts the control to the patient. Now, patients don't feel a loss of control. They don't feel that. Now, patients may not want to do it. You might not want to buy this toilet if it's available and your doctor uses it, and that's fine. You don't have to. But as an option, you should be able to, right? So I'm fascinated by a shift of control meets resistance. Not all the time, not with everybody, but it's a pattern I've noticed. Teachers, librarians, administrators, parents, kids, shift of control. The other thing that fascinates me, there's a couple lessons here that I'm going to build on, you can tell what's coming, is the synergies of 2 things being connected. When you connect things that were not previously connected, toilet, refrigerator, not connected in your house, right? Chances are, and your watch probably doesn't connect to your toilet and your refrigerator. But it will, and a lot more than that. It's coming, you can't stop it. You just can't stop it. Good luck trying to stop it. Synergies fascinate me. When you take information from one place and all of a sudden it's available in another place, the usefulness can skyrocket, right? The refrigerator now gives you a lot more service. So the question, I'm building to this, the question is, what's the connection of libraries? What should libraries be connected to? See, I'm going to tell you point blank. I'm worried because I do a lot of design. I've designed some libraries. I work with architects on occasion. I've written some articles, in fact, in School Library Journal on the design of libraries. And what fascinates me, forgive me please, is a lot of new libraries are new old libraries. They look new, but they're not any different. Functionally, not like the toilet. See, the real power of technology, in my view, isn't that you fix what's currently broken, but that you ask questions you've never asked before. Like, what could it really be if we didn't have any inertia? If we didn't have any tradition, if we didn't have any books in the library, if we didn't have a reference section, if we didn't have a desk, if we didn't have anything, and you were given complete freedom without encumbrance to design anything you wanted, would you still design what you currently have? Based on the printing press? No. So I worry that, you know, I didn't make this quote, but there's this quote that keeps nagging at me, that sometimes we drive forward by looking in the rearview mirror, trying to fix what's broken, instead of looking at things like connections and asking, what could this be that it was never able to do before, like this toilet? So I want to talk about some things. Here we go. If I've made friends, this is where I lose you. But here we go, right? I I want to show you, well, if you were to ask kids, what's the best use of technology when you're not in school? When you're at home, you're studying for a test, and you don't understand homework, and you want to do well. You're conscientious, and you want to do well. Do you know what the answer is? I asked this question. I would like you to ask this question to students. What do you do when you're home? In fact, if I could, I would send all of you to a dozen houses to watch children when they're not in a formal school setting and they make their own choices. Please consider that. At least you can ask. So I ask, and the dominant answer. Did anybody want to shout out the dominant answer? One place on the web. YouTube. YouTube. Kid says, I didn't understand something my teacher said. I went to YouTube. I typed in a search for organic chemistry, whatever it is, Hamlet, and I found some YouTube presentation, and I understood it. Do you believe this? Your kids are often using video more than they're reading. Some of your kids, especially visual kids who don't do well. Then I ask the kids, how often have you ever told a teacher that you found this great video? Because it could help the other kids. You know what the answer is? Never. Never. You have all these kids, imagine this, doing research. You have all these kids, probably this weekend, doing all this research, finding amazing videos that could help everybody else, but they're not going to tell their teacher because they're afraid to tell the teacher they didn't understand it themselves. There's all kinds of reasons why they don't do this, why they don't share what helps them. I'd like to think that's one of your new jobs, that you will talk to the kids, you will talk to every teacher, you will beg the kids to tell you, you're safe. You don't grade them. You don't judge them. You have a different relationship. It's a great relationship. It's a critical relationship. Unique in academia that you don't grade them. That means you're safer. It's true. It's true, you're safer. You know these kids. Well, some of them. And if you honored the children to teach you the other way around, you flip it around, you say to the kids, you want to know what videos they find that help them. And you build a library online of all the videos that your kids show you to build a resource for the entire district. You could do that tomorrow. And they're going to do all the work. They're going to do all the work. They're doing the work anyway. We're just not tapping it. So in the organization of information, you could do traditional things of organizing, doing decimal and the rest of that, but I think we should see what the kids are doing. Huge opportunity over there. Now, if you don't know how to tag a video, call it physics, acceleration, whatever the subject is, then just get some kids to help you design the website for you. Just get a bunch of kids, 5th, 6th graders, can do this, who can come in and sit down with you and figure out the design of the website. You're too busy. You're not going to spend a lot of time learning how to design websites. But 5th and 6th graders eat this stuff up for lunch. So, new concept, we're going to take advantage of all the research that kids do every single day, and we're going to harness that, leverage it for the good of the entire district. And when kids see that their stuff is being used by other kids, that's empowering. Here, I'll show you. I'll give you an example. In Santa Monica, I have a friend named, Run Adobe Flash. Failed. Oh no, this is not fun. I got to fix this little technology problem. There we go. I'm showing you a website called mathtrain.tv. You can go to it right now. MathTrain.tv is Eric Marcos, his 6th grade math teacher, Santa Monica. I've known Eric for about 10 years. He's been doing this a long time. As far as I know, Eric is the only teacher in the world who has a website designed by kids, roughly on average 3-minute tutorials that explains the entire curriculum to other kids. The research is very clear. It turns out that a lot of children, when they don't understand what goes on in a classroom, do not ask their teacher for help, they ask a friend for help. I'm not making this up. That's a great plan as long as you have the right friends. You have the right friends, chances are, if you picked the right friends in 1st grade and you stuck with that friendship group, you're going to college. If you pick the wrong friends, maybe you're not. Just by who your friends are, I bet I can predict who's going to college. It's crazy that I can do that. So it's not fair. It's not fair. It's about relationships, who your friends are, who you hang out with, who influences you, who are your role models. So what this teacher has done, which I hope you will do, is he's taught the children how to make tutorials. And it was an accident. He made one, and he sent it to a student who, in an email, who needed help for a test. And she writes back and says, basically, that's really not so good. I can do better. Little snotty kid. This is the one. This is the first one. I just want to show you, point out, that it's been seen 100,000 times. How many books do you have in the library that have been seen 100,000 times? How many? Not a lot. Just not a lot. Not a lot. You want to compare the data here with your data? This one has only been seen 9,000 times. Small number. Small number. That'd be a big number in a library, right? That'd be a big number. This is real. I'm not making this up. It turns out that Harvard's done a lot of research on this. Here I can maybe give you a reference for those of you who want to know that I am really not making this up. Harvard has tried to figure out why do all Harvard students not succeed at this wild, crazy, high expectation. And they came up with this thing called the curse of knowledge. Curse of knowledge. This is not rarely read research. This is rarely read research. Curse of knowledge basically says that Harvard professors know too much. Here, I'll do the specific reference, /harvard.edu. That way we only get Harvard references, 4,000 of them. It turns out that teachers, professors, librarians, who know a tremendous amount of content, subject material, may not understand the issues of a first-time learner because teachers are so good at what you do. This is crazy. This is a crazy idea. We hire educators because of their knowledge. Later, in one of my follow-up workshops, I'm going to show you some videos from Harvard. They don't say a word anymore. Complete. Maybe I'll show you here. I better show you here. But what they've discovered, and I think if it's good enough for Harvard kids, it's good enough for kids who struggle in 3rd grade. It turns out that a first-time learner who struggles but gets it can sometimes have the empathy and the understanding that really helps another first-time learner, more than even the teacher. Do any of you believe what I've just said? It's a crazy idea. But if you follow it through, then the librarian, you are the publisher. You're the publisher of all the student voices in your school, if you organized it, like this teacher, in every subject, and you ran workshops in the library of kids teaching kids how to make tutorials, which they love, it's creative stuff. They love building stuff, Minecraft, the rest of it. And you organized it and you tagged it, you become Dewey. But not so much on printed books and the rest of it. The new Dewey is going to be about tagging student-designed work so that first-time learners can help first-time learners, and you will watch the numbers skyrocket of people, students, and teachers who use your resources. 100,000. I think it's an exciting time. Nobody else can do this but you. There's nobody else in a school or a district who knows all the teachers and all the subjects and has all that space where kids can sit and design. Tim told you, design, research, design. This is what it is, as an example of what to do. Pull this off. Now, collectively, if all of you were connected, if we did not think of you as being in separate schools and separate districts, but we thought of you as being one team, because the web allows that. Come on, the toilet and refrigerator talk to each other. You should talk to each other. So if you got together as one organization and you built this for the state of California, every kid could access it. Whether or not their librarian or their teacher did it, you would be empowering the entire state of California. Because every librarian and every teacher is not going to do it. It represents too much of a shift of control, I will tell you. This is not normal that you would build content based on children helping children. Who does that? You do, that's right. All right, so off we go. Let's see. Any questions? Good. Let me show you one more. I'm going to give a little talk later on globally connected kids. This is hard to say. I have presented in 40 countries, more now. And unusual places, all across the Mideast, Africa, Central and South America, some very poor countries. What's fascinating to me is when I go to another country, one of the topics most in demand is connecting our children to the world. And I understand it. If you're in a small Scandinavian country, you're in Stockholm, the world doesn't speak your language, so all the kids are learning English, also in China, Russia, all around the world, children are learning English, so they can participate in the global economy. They want in. And English, it's it, on the web for business. So they're desperate to connect their kids, work with other kids around the world, and we're not. I can't even convince some schools that this should be on their radar, that every classroom should be globally connected. Every classroom, every day. So I want to show you what this looks like in first grade. Because if we can do it, except it's a Canadian example, I couldn't find it American. So this is a friend of mine, another friend of mine, named Kathy Cassidy. It's her Twitter account, which already I've probably lost a lot of you because it's against the rules to have first graders use Twitter. But it's official, it's her class account. That's okay. And the kids, she runs it in a very interesting way. The children have jobs. One of the jobs is to take pictures of learning. We got all these cameras hanging around, right? So she has a team of kids taking photographs of the other children learning, and once a week, they put up a lot of pictures, and the first grade, while she's watching, the first grade children, they study the photographs of their own learning, reflect on their own learning, and they choose the photographs they think represent the best of their learning. They do this every week. It's powerful to teach children to reflect on their own learning. Because sometimes we just go without reflecting. As a group. That in itself is interesting. But then what she does is she takes the photographs the children think are the most interesting, and she puts them up. Now, the reason she puts them up is to connect toilet, refrigerator, is to connect to parents, other teachers. It's highly moderated. You can see she has 4,000 people following her. But look, she's only following 5. She's very picky. You should be picky. So I'm going to click on the 5 she's following. And it turns out these 5 is a teacher in Vietnam, and one in Argentina, one in Italy, other countries. They do the same thing she's doing. They post photographs of learning. First grade stuff, safe stuff, she picks. And once a week, there's another job. The other job is a couple kids go over, they take a look at, you want to watch kids get excited? Here, I'll show you. So they click on the Saigon South International School. They speak English. And see if I can get this up. And the kids in Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan, Kathy's class, they take a look at what's going on in Saigon. And they see robots. They do eggs also. They have a hatchery, and they got the idea that maybe bubble wrap would prevent some of the eggs from breaking. So they rip that idea off. Then they see this project, the STEM project, making a video camera out of junk, and it's too late. They want to make this camera. It's too late. They go up to Kathy. Poor Kathy has never made a video camera out of junk. And she knows this is coming. She knows that her kids are going to get excited about stuff she doesn't know anything about. So this is not for every teacher, because she's putting herself in a position where she has to tell the children after all this enthusiasm, and they're eager to do it, and she has to say, I'm sorry, I can't help you. Which I think, I love her for this. But the kids say, oh, that's okay. We have their Skype addresses. We'll just set up a conference call. We don't need you. They don't need her. They don't need her to teach them how to make the video camera. That they can get a YouTube video. That they can talk to the kids in Vietnam who did that. They don't need Kathy for that. What do they need Kathy for? To understand that the whole world is an opportunity. Not their classroom, not their school, but the whole world. Starting in first grade, kindergarten, preschool, we should be doing this. The irony of the internet is if you're not in a school, the dominant use of the web is communication between people who are not in the same room. That's the dominant use of the internet, except in schools. The one place we're preparing kids to go work is the one place where they're not allowed to develop the global communication, the global empathy, the understanding of different religions, different people, different perspective, and yes, even different curriculum. To get excited, to go beyond any expectation that Kathy has ever had for her kids every week, which is pretty powerful. So I got to wrap up. You guys are it. Every classroom global, every library becomes a global communication center. I'd love to send my kids down to you. You connect them. You teach teachers how to build relationships. So 2 things. The voice of children, you're the major publisher. That could have an incredible impact on academic achievement, traditional stuff. And beyond that, I'd also like to think that you're in charge of global relationships, that you're going to develop the skill, even if you don't have it now, it's not hard, of how to help every teacher build global relationships, to teach children how to make the world a better place by being globally connected, and at the same time, getting ready for life, right? It's all about life. So thanks for letting me hang with you guys. An amazing honor. Thanks so much.
escaped everything really quick and reapplied everything. I got it.